This is it. Title D-Day as Celtic host Hearts. Who is going to come out on top and carry off the Premiership title? And could Rangers be about to set an unwanted record? I'm Charlotte Cohen, and alongside Scott Allan and Moira Gordon, we'll guide you through the final Premiership weekend. Hello and welcome to the Scottish Football Podcast. All the news, views and analysis you need on Friday the 15th of May, and it is the final Premiership showdown.
We may not win it, but what we have done is that we have fought really impressively, I think, throughout these last number of weeks.
And for us to get to 80 points is unbelievable shooting, for us. Great effort for everybody, and I couldn't be more proud of the team.
It's the Hollywood ending as Celtic and Hearts face each other for the title. And while the eyes of the world are on Celtic Park, there is plenty at stake elsewhere.
Yeah, it was a mirror from our last 4 games, I must say this. And it day to day showed me exactly that we need a strong front-footed cut in the summer to change a lot of things on and off the pitch.
Rangers face losing 5 league games in a row for the first time in their history. And the battle for Europe will be decided as Hibs host Motherwell.
At this stage of the season, it's all about winning, and that was the message to the players there, that there's one more to go.
Losing the game like that, which is, as I said, unreal. But now we have a job to do on Saturday, and we will get ready to do that.
It might be Scottish football's biggest weekend, and we've got it covered right here.
The Scottish Football Podcast from BBC Sport Scotland.
And alongside me to talk all things this weekend, Scott Allan, former Celtic Hibs midfielder. Good morning, Scott. I think I'll know your answer to this, but what game are you most looking forward to this weekend?
Well, it all comes to a conclusion this weekend, but Celtic Park, all eyes, as you say, I think the world will be watching, especially off the back of the 2 games that we've just had that week there. It's going to be incredible atmosphere at Celtic Park. Will be fever pitch. Celtic will be really confident, and it's up to Hearts to go there top of the league off the back of some really good performances in the split, and try and do which a lot of people might think will be a very difficult task for them. So really can't wait for that one.
And alongside us, football writer Moira Gordon. Morning, Moira. Same question to you. I imagine your answer will be very much the same.
I don't think anybody isn't looking forward to this game. I think it's an exciting conclusion to what's been our season. So it's set up perfectly, Hollywood standard.
Absolutely, and we'll just dive straight in because, Scott, the chatter around this one, the noise around this one is even louder than it was before everything that happened on Wednesday night. But this game, Hearts against Celtic, Celtic against Hearts, fighting it out for the title, winner takes all, it kind of is the perfect end to this season, isn't it?
It is. Listen, you remember the excitement that we all had when we seen the split fixtures and how close there was a 3-horse race at that time. And every game, every weekend every match day is just delivered. And week by week, the pressure's been building, the excitement's been building. And this is just the ultimate, I think, for how this season has been. It's been so entertaining for so many different reasons. But to finish it off with a shout for the title, I don't think at the start of the season anyone could have predicted this. And it all boils down to Saturday. It really does. And there'll be so much pressure on Celtic, Hearts, officials. And honestly, I don't think we can quite call how the game's going to look. I think it could be action-packed. Hearts obviously going there off the back of some injuries, but performances have been really good in the split, and Celtic have been winning games week by week since the split started and Martin O'Neill's came back in to rescue their season. So it really is going to be incredible this weekend.
I wonder, Moira, who of Hearts or Celtic you think have the momentum right now? As Scott mentioned, Celtic are winning games, might not be in the prettiest fashion, but they're winning games. They've won all of their post-split games, which they had to do to keep themselves in this position. But I wonder if you think now, particularly after what happened on Wednesday night, the momentum might be with them rather than Hearts.
I think the momentum is probably with Celtic, just because you see every game they had to win post-split, they've gone and won. So they've got some momentum, but that doesn't mean to say there's incentives there for both of them. Hearts have got an incentive now an even greater one after the midweek result and the controversies. I think they've been given an incentive to prove everybody wrong. I think everybody thought after that point everything had switched towards Celtic, and if you were a gambling man, it probably would make more sense to back Celtic at the moment than Hearts. But I think they've got the incentive to go on and prove people wrong because they feel a sense of injustice the way some of the refereeing decisions have gone, and I think that'll actually drive them. So it's quite a funny one. I think they've got a greater maybe purpose to prove people wrong at the moment and to right some wrongs. But I think Celtic have got the momentum of going into these games having won every game they had to win post-split. So it's going to be really, really tasty.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. I wonder, Scott, what you make of the significance of that penalty on Wednesday night, because on the one hand, you've got Celtic who looked as if they were probably going to have to go into Saturday and score a barrel load of goals if they only picked up a point at Motherwell. Hearts winning at Falkirk against Falkirk. But they go in now having won that game due to that penalty. Everybody across the world seems to be enraged by the decision. Just how significant is that decision going to be come 4:00 on Saturday afternoon?
It really depends on what way the title goes. There's no getting away from it. I think the two decisions the week before at Fir Park are just as important, and it just went from one game to the other. I think that they really were huge decisions. I think I said on Sports Scene that night that VAR could have a real say in where this goes, where the title does end up. There's no getting away from it. It has enraged people. I think Derek McInnes will actually like going there where everybody thinks Celtic are favourites. There's no getting away from it. I think he can make that siege mentality that we've seen him do on several occasions this year. Hearts have always come up with answers after a little bit of setbacks. The setback wasn't the Hearts' performance during the week, it was just being on the wrong of a very controversial decision, topped up with what happened at Fir Park the previous week. But I think that Derek McInnes will be happy to go there. All the pressure kind of on Celtic, and rightly so. Listen, if you ask any Celtic for a home game against Hearts to go and win the championship, you look at performance last week, the atmosphere in the stadium against Rangers, it was electric. So they'll feel that then gives them real momentum getting into the game. But at the same time, I think you've got to strip down and look at performance first and foremost. Motherwell for large spells of that game were by far the better football side, created lots of chances, frustrated Celtic, had them pinned in their own half. And I just feel if you're Derek McInnes, I don't think you have to overcomplicate it. I think you just try and make Celtic defend. As long as you defend well and you make them defend, I think there's chances. You get two best strikers in the league in Braga and Shankland. There's no getting away from that, and I do feel they will score goals. So it's how the crowd then reacts to being so confident getting into this fixture at Celtic Park. If the Celtic players then have a bit of setback on the park, can they then bounce back? They have done that over the course of the season at times under Martin O'Neill. I don't think you cannot rule Hearts out. Played Celtic 3 times this year and Celtic haven't beat them yet. So there is a bit of confidence there. But for me, I think Derek McInnes will be happy going there with everyone expecting Celtic to win, because what a way that would be for Derek McInnes and that Hearts side to clinch the title.
I think that's maybe the good thing about Wednesday was almost a dress rehearsal for Hearts in terms of having to deal with the pressure of getting it over the line. And they had to do it while they were favourites. Everybody in that stadium expects them to beat Falkirk and do their job. So they had the pressure of that, and it told slightly at the beginning of the match. You could see the players were nervous. They knew the magnitude of the game. So they've kind of experienced that now within the last few days. They'll go to Celtic Park now as underdogs, a different feeling, but also more used to that feeling of the pressure of getting it finally over the line. So in a way, Wednesday night might have actually helped them in lots of different ways. But I think having that sort of dress rehearsal of the pressure that's going to come and the fact that they're not going to have their full stadium breathing down their neck, panicking with every slightly missed pass. Celtic are going to have to deal with that now. And there's a few players in the team that have been over the course, but there's a lot of players in that Celtic team that haven't. So it's going to be interesting to see how they cope with that pressure now, and whether Hearts have got used to it slightly more after Wednesday, and whether these Celtic players can cope with 60,000 people breathing down their neck and panicking at every slightly misplaced pass.
Yeah, it is just going to be fascinating. And I wonder, Scott, if Celtic do manage to get this over the line, given what's happened this season, Stephen McGowan on yesterday's podcast called it a bin fire of a season. And if Martin O'Neill does manage to do it and win this title, do you think he would consider it one of his greatest triumphs as Celtic manager, given what he's done in the past?
Yeah, well, it's two completely different teams, isn't it? And calibre of player, first and foremost, since his previous spell so long ago. I think to come back in during the midst of what happened at Celtic at the time, you got to take everything into account. The board and the fan base, just no connection there whatsoever, especially at the time that Martin O'Neill came in, performance-wise. At the same time, I don't think Celtic have actually strung a 90-minute performance together, really, of any consistency this season. So to get what he has out of the players at his disposal, as much as Celtic have spent money, the quality just isn't there if you compare it to previous seasons. You add in the factor of your Jotas, your Carter Vickers, Alistair Johnson been out for most of the season. It has had an impact on the playing squad. There's no getting away from that. So for Martin O'Neill, if he was to clinch a title on Saturday, it would be an incredible achievement. But at the start of the season, Celtic would have been most people's favourites. It's just dealing with all the added things that came Celtic's way this season, because there's no getting away from it. It's been an underperforming season. But if they were still to win the league, it just shows you sometimes when you get a guy at the helm who's got a calmness and experience, and you've got to give the players credit too if they were to overcome this, because they've come under a lot of pressure. At the end of the season, it's who finishes top of the table, and that will be deserving champions.
Would you, Scott, give O'Neill the job if he manages to win this title?
No, not for me. I think if Celtic are to win the title on Saturday, I think you then look at how big the next challenge is for Celtic as a club, and that is obviously getting a manager in place. And for me, I think there has to be huge changes in terms of recruitment. Recruitment has to be better this season. There's going to be players moving on who you've seen at Celtic over the last few years and performed really well. Your Maedas, Hatatis, Alistair Johnson has a good World Cup. I wouldn't be surprised if someone comes knocking at the door for him. Does Cal McGregor stay on again? All these sort of things that then came into account. So I think it would be an incredible achievement to win the league, but then the biggest challenge is then recruiting and rebuilding and seeing how Celtic are going to look going into next season.
Particularly given what we all know Hearts are going to do and keep doing from season onwards. So as you say, Scott, it'll be really interesting to see how Celtic respond to this regardless. But just jumping back to the game at the weekend, Moira, obviously all of the talk in the last 24, 48 hours has been about officials, decisions, VAR, controversy. I wonder what you think it's going to be like for referee Don Robertson and his team of officials on Saturday.
I think if somebody had said to him that he was going to get the game that defined the season, a few months ago, he'd have probably been delighted. I think now when he probably got the call and said, you're the one that's going to be in the middle after all that's gone on, he's probably asking what he'd done wrong to offend Willie Collum. It's not going to be an easy day. And there'll be perceptions. That's the problem now. People are so convinced that there's been injustices or that things are going against them, that no matter what he does, there's going to be perceptions that something's gone wrong or the decision's not been given, and he's going to absolutely need a VAR team that are on it. He's going to have to work with them really well as a team, and they're going to have to get the big decisions absolutely bang on, because if they don't, it's just going to ignite after the final whistle, and we don't want that to be the way that the season's ending.
Yeah, that's one of the other big things, Scott, that I've seen a lot of people chattering about, is they don't want this title to be defined by a refereeing decision. I mean, we've seen, as you touched on, Hearts against Motherwell last week, what we saw this week. If then something happens on Saturday that is controversial or causes people to be upset, it's not the way you would want it to end, put it that way.
It's not. But if we're going with consistency throughout the season, I don't think any of us would be surprised if there is some sort of decision that doesn't go in one team's favour. And there has been teams throughout the league who have been affected by some of the calls. And I understand the pressure on the referees is incredible. For Don Robertson Saturday, this is maybe the most pressure been on a referee in a long, long time. Getting into this game, there's no getting away from that. And the pressure for the players is different from the pressure on the referee when there's so much at stake. And I think that's why there's been so so much made of the decisions over the course of the last 2 match days. But it's up to the referees to do it to the best of their ability. Can they come to the right decisions? That's first and foremost. I think Don Robertson are looking at hoping one team runs away with it on Saturday. But if this season's anything to go by, I just can't see it being like that. And there will be decisions that are going to be contested. It's just the way it's been this season. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's some decisions there for Don Robertson to make that maybe rub some people up the wrong way. But as long as between Don Robertson and the VAR team that they can come to the correct decision, I think that's the most important thing.
That's the thing, if it's always the way, there's going to be mistakes. Referees are human, the same as the players, the manager, everybody else involved is. So there might be mistakes, but in the past, it'd be over and done with, and you could accept it was human error up to a point. When you're going to the monitors, people are taking as long to look over things, or in some cases not taking anywhere near enough time maybe to look at things. Then that's when it starts becoming, it's not just that they're not very good or that they had a bad day, that the conspiracy theories come into it and, claims of bias or something more sinister. And that's where it's a real shame. We accept there's always been refereeing decisions that are contentious throughout football and history, but it's when they've taken so long to look at it. That's the whole point, is that we're using VR to get rid of these big decisions that are costly. And we could have a title being decided on a contentious decision where people have had the benefit of looking back at TV and scrutinising. And I just think that's not good enough. I think if we're going to bring VAR and claim that it's going to get, erode all the uncertainty and make sure that we get big decisions right this season, so far that's not been the case, and they need to step up at the weekend and make sure it is the case, because it's going to hurt so many people if things go the wrong way, and you're going to have one side or other feeling really aggrieved all summer, and it's just going to bubble on.
Your weekend listening starts with the Saturday show at 9 o'clock on BBC Radio Scotland, followed by this incredible match on Sports Sound from 11:30, and then Off the Ball is on at 5 p.m. Well, away from the big one, Rangers are on the brink of potentially losing 5 games in a row for the first time. They lost their 4th game in a row for the first time since 1983, midweek. Scott, Danny Rose said before the split that these were 5 cup finals. I mean, it's just been a disaster. I don't really think there's any other way to put it.
Disaster. I just think for me, just a lack of... They just haven't had the stomach for this sort of fight, and that is the reality. I think you could add together with that, the quality in the team just hasn't been there. Performance is really underwhelming, and going to Falkirk in the last game of the season, where you think all the talk before the split happened, and then the fixtures come out and people are saying fixtures in this favour. Rangers just couldn't take care of their own business, couldn't go and win games, couldn't go and perform. Questions have to be asked tactically of Danny Rowe in some of the fixtures. For me, I think he's got it wrong on several occasions. Add together the James Tavernier fallout from the other night, which I don't think reflects well on Danny Rowe. There's no getting away from that. His leadership group, and how he then responds to it after the game, followed by a James Tavernier Instagram post last night giving his side of the story. So I never think things like that in public bodes well for a manager, especially when you aren't performing at the same time. So Rangers are in a position where, listen, they could win the game on Saturday, no problem, but there's still, if you look at the money that's been spent this season, Russell Martin came in, didn't perform, Danny Rose steadies the ship. Performance-wise, and looking at Rangers, how they really go and try and hurt teams, I just think for me, really underwhelming. And the fact when it came to real crunch time, Rangers just couldn't perform, and that would be a sign where they're looking at recruitment and players, and it'd be not too dissimilar to Celtic. A lot of players will have to move on. But Rangers keep doing this year to year. I think we seem to be having the same conversations about Rangers as a club. Does the manager stay? Does the manager not? What players would you keep? What players wouldn't you? We need to get guys in who can come in and hit the ground running. Some have, but most of them haven't. Most of them have been misses, and that would be a real concern, because Rangers have spent money this year. There's no getting away from that. But the most creative player is a loan player who they won't have next season. Last season, most creative player was Czerny. They're looking at that. Should they have spent the money and go and get a winger who had proven in the league that year that he could perform? They didn't, and they just haven't replaced that sort of quality in the numbers that the goal scorers got last year. So Rangers are in a real pickle for me. And And Danny Rowe, as he says, he could really set a record, five losses in a row, which is nowhere near good enough. But performance and tactically, I just feel that Danny Rowe hasn't found that edge when it's came to the split fixtures, and that's why there's a lot of now eyes on Danny Rowe in next season.
And that then becomes the big question, Moira. I mean, Danny Rose said himself he's had a vote of confidence from the board. Our Rangers fan that we have on the podcast on a Wednesday thinks he will still be the manager next season, but if he loses 5 games in a row, is that you know, you've been in this business, you've seen how particularly managers in Glasgow can get absolutely shafted for much less than losing 5 games in a row. So I wonder if he can survive this, if it does come down to that.
I think what I find amusing is the fact that Danny thinks having been given a vote of confidence by the board gives him any kind of assurance that he's going to be there next season. As you say, we've been in this game long enough that votes of confidence from the board mean absolutely nothing. And especially if you're going to go on and create an unwanted record, 5 defeats in a row. And it's not even just this. We've kind of had an inkling that this might be possible long before the split. Every time they did well, they closed the gap on Hearts. But every time they had the chance to actually make that killer move and get past them or to move to the top, that's when they would crumble. Those games were the ones that they didn't perform in, they didn't get the results they needed. So they kept almost pretending to get to that point where they were real challengers, and then they backed off because they as Scott said, they just haven't had the stomach for it. There's been signs of that earlier in the season when there was no pressure, nothing really on, apart from just winning each game, doing the catch-up part. Once you've caught up, you've got to get past, and they've never shown real sign or intent of doing that. So when it came to post-split, I think for the teams, the way they've collapsed so spectacularly is astonishing. And I think that in itself, questions have got to be asked there. They've got to ask whether a manager, you look at the difference Martin O'Neill can make in galvanising players that aren't the best, but manage to get them going. They also, Celtic, you look at it and they've had leaders in there, guys like Callum McGregor or Kieran Tierney, the club means something to them, and they've got that drive. Who in the Rangers dressing room has given them that? Who there is actually caring enough or fighting enough for it? Whether it's the manager, whether it's the players, there's just not enough of them that seem invested to get that, ambitions over the line. So I think there's massive questions to be asked about a manager that can't get the best out of players when there's a title at stake. It's not like he's asking them to, just push through until the end of the season for, maybe a European place or something. This is the biggest prize, and he can't push through when there was a Celtic team that were weaker, and I just think Rangers fans won't accept that. And if they go 5, I think you look at it and you think, what is going on? I don't think Danny Rowe trusts the players that are there either. I think the noises he was making after the game the other night, I think he's decided that some of them are going anyway. So he's not having to try and tippy-toe around them, maybe post-match as much as some managers might. So I think he's decided some of them are going, and I think he's kind of washed his hands of this season already and looking ahead. But if you lose 5 games as a Rangers manager, you might not be able to look ahead. So he's got to be very, very careful this weekend.
Elsewhere, Motherwell and Hibs are still vying for the final, potentially the final European spot. Depends, 5th might be enough if Celtic win the cup. Hibs have done well, Scott, given how far ahead Motherwell were at points. It looked like they were a shoo-in for 4th place. They were almost included in this title fight at one point as well. Hibs have done really well to make a race of this and get it down to that final game of the season.
They really have. I think it helps when you have 11 players on the pitch, though. I think a few weeks back, 3 games in a row, obviously got to get men set off, and it really affected how they'd set up for the game, and it then makes your job a lot more difficult. There's no getting away from that. But how they've responded to that fantastic win last week against Falkirk, and then to go to Ibrox and win 2-1. As much as Rangers are poor, it's never easy to go there and win. They've now won at Ibrox and Celtic Park this year, so David Gray will be delighted with that. Martin Boyle, I wonder if they made a call far too early on Martin Boyle. I really do. He's still affecting games. still as elusive as ever, still can put the ball in the back of the net. So huge credit to Martin Boyle off the back of, obviously he's going to be moving on, but Hibs have just managed to stay in the fight. I think for me, if you're looking at Hibs' season, they've been competitive all season. There's just been far too many draws. I think that has been the story of their season, coupled with the fact that your local rivals are going for a title. So the pressure then comes on Dave Gray. Cup runs haven't been good enough. I think that would be one where everyone connected with Hibs could hold their hands up. Cup, if you're going to, if your title, if your rivals in Hearts are going for a league, I think you have to do better in the cups. There's no getting away from that. That hasn't been good enough to go out to Dunfermline on the day, but they've been competitive all year. Dave Gray's manages to keep them together off the back of three the defeats that I spoke about. I think it's been a solid season, a consistent season, which hasn't been done in a long time for Hibs. And David Gray has just managed to steady the ship over what the previous three managers before that couldn't do. There was lots of turmoil at Hibs, whether that was the wrong recruitment and constantly changing a manager. So I think David Gray actually deserves huge credit for what he's done with that Hibs squad, and it gives him something to build on next year. It's a game he'll know it'll be difficult. Motherwell other night at times were sensational. He'll know the challenge he faces when he comes up against Jens Berthel, Asku's side. But what an opportunity to go and nail down fourth, and that'll be a consistent two seasons in a row for David Gray, where I don't think anyone can argue with what he's done there.
Yeah, plenty at stake everywhere on Saturday, and that's not where the football ends. In the bottom six on Sunday, Dundee host Aberdeen, Livingston are at home to Kilmarnock, and St Mirren are up against Dundee United, all kicking off at 2:00. Off the Ball is on air at 12 on Sunday, followed by Sportssound at 1:30, where you can listen to all of the action. Plus, tonight you can watch Partick Thistle v Dunfermline in the Premiership playoff on BBC Scotland from 7:30, and the League One playoff final second leg between Hamilton and Clyde is on the BBC Alba channel from 7:35 tonight. Right, let's finish with our final rapid fire prediction questions. As always, no waffle, one word answers or as few words as possible. Come to you first, Scott. Celtic or Hearts?
Oh.
I'm glad she came to you first.
Listen, Celtic home game, you go and win the league. I think you have to say Celtic, but at the same time, I wouldn't be surprised if Hearts produce something. So I think common sense would say Celtic at home to win a title would be Celtic.
Yeah. I mean, I did say no waffle.
Pressure on Moira now.
Moira, Celtic or Hearts?
To be fair, it's exactly the same. I think after this season ended, it says definitively it's going to be one or the other is off their head. I think Hearts have had to prove so many times, time and again, that they're maybe shouldn't be written off. So maybe that's how the season's going to end. As Scott said, sensible answer would probably be Celtic, but I don't know. I've got a sneaky. It might be Hearts. I just think that this season's been that bonkers, so it might be Hearts.
Go for Hearts.
I've just done it. I'm going. It's like it might be Hearts. That's as definitive as I'm giving it.
Scott, which match is going to be the coupon buster this weekend, do you think?
Celtic Hearts. Celtic Hearts is going to be the coupon buster, I think. Might just end up a draw, who knows? But Celtic Hearts for me.
Moira?
I don't think MD's actually watching any game other than the Celtic Hearts one, so that's the one that is going to be the answers to most of these questions.
Right, well, where, Scott, do you think it's going to kick off? I think I know the answer.
Celtic Hearts.
Yeah, poor Don Robertson, but yeah, Celtic and Hearts.
You're right with a bang here.
Here we go. This question doesn't even include Celtic Hearts, so they can't be the answer. Who is getting that European spot, Scott? Motherwell or Hibs?
Hibs.
Moira?
I think probably Motherwell, actually. I think Hibs have done brilliantly, but I think Motherwell have been so close to it, they'll want to hang on. And
finally, who can be team, player, official, whatever, is going to be making the headlines, Scott?
Don Robertson.
Moira?
Without a doubt, that's it. No, it's going to be one of the managers kicking off because of a bad decision by Don Robertson, or it's going to be Don Robertson.
Well, we'll find out in approximately, 20, 30 hours or so. We'll know who's won the league. So very exciting weekend of football to come. But that is all we've got time for. Many thanks to Scott and Moira, and thank you very much for listening. Remember, we are here with new episodes of the Scottish Football Podcast bright and early every day. So make sure you don't miss out. Subscribe on BBC Sounds and have push notifications turned on in your phone. Enjoy the rest of your day, enjoy your weekend, and we'll catch you again once we know the winner of the Scottish Premiership title.
For everything you need to know about your team this season, download the BBC Sport app. All the latest news, goal updates, stats and scores, and insight and analysis. Just select your club to get the biggest stories and best content at your fingertips. What a result. Download the BBC Sport app for everything you need to know about your team this season.